Critics gave them one-star reviews and wrote them off as garbage. Audiences turned them into cult classics, billion-dollar franchises, and comfort rewatches. From a stoner comedy they swore was unwatchable, to the dance movie that launched a franchise, these are the movies critics tried to bury and failed. The Boondock Saints follows Irish brothers who become vigilantes and take on the Russian mafia. It's one of those movies that went under the radar when it first released. Only its critics seem to watch it, giving the film a pitiful Rotten Tomatoes score of 26%. They complained that its lead actors, Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus, gave blank performances in a juvenile, ugly movie that represents the worst tendencies of directors channeling Tarantino. Boondock Saints is a far cry from the quality of a Tarantino flick, but it's still a fun, thrilling, and bloody watch. And Willem Dafoe as an eccentric FBI special agent has become one of his most memorable performances. In the years since its release, The Boondock Saints has become a cult classic. It holds an impressive 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a whopping 65% difference from the critics' score. The film's cult status led to a sequel in 2009, The Boondock Saints 2: All Saints' Day. A third movie is currently in development, with Flannery and Reedus expected to reprise their roles. Fans have been demanding to see Venom, one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains, on the big screen since 2002's Spider-Man demolished the box office. The character finally appeared in 2007's Spider-Man 3, though the portrayal and overall film left much to be desired. Sony gave the character another whirl in 2018 by giving Venom his own standalone movie, outside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Venom cast Tom Hardy as the titular character. It wound up with a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics calling the film chaotic, noisy, and in desperate need of a stronger attachment to Spider-Man. Fans, however, were thrilled to get a more comic book-accurate depiction of Venom that captured his monstrous appearance and conflicting duality. Most fans agree that they would have preferred a darker take on the character, a la 2019's Joker. But with its 80% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, Venom is a fun, albeit sometimes goofy movie that brings some justice to an iconic villain. A villain that many fans are hoping will cross over into the MCU and finally face off against Tom Holland's Spider-Man. It's no surprise that several movies on this list are mindless comedies with silly plots. Critics hated them, but audiences loved him. First up is Waiting. Long before he suited up as Deadpool and became one of Marvel's most bankable stars, Ryan Reynolds starred in this vulgar comedy about the ridiculous employees working at a crappy franchise restaurant. Critics tore the movie apart, leaving it with a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. Waiting is more gross than comic, they said. It's definitely gross. Its characters spend half the movie trying to trick each other into unknowingly looking at their testicles. But it's also that raunchy humor that made Waiting so much fun to watch. Reynolds is also joined by a fun cast that includes comedic stars like Anna Faris, Justin Long, and Luis Guzman. The film's audience score of 75% shows that viewers had stronger stomachs than critics when it comes to the comedy served in Waiting. Video game adaptations don't have the best track record in Hollywood. These movies are usually terrible and get trashed by critics, Borderlands being the latest example. It didn't surprise anyone when Warcraft, the 2016 fantasy epic based on the best-selling video game, received a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. The movie was criticized for its overuse of CGI, its abundance of characters, and its sluggish storytelling. Audiences, however, enjoyed the film, or maybe it was the legions of Warcraft fans around the world who enjoyed seeing this fantastical world and its iconic character designs come to life on a screen bigger than they're used to. Either way, Warcraft landed a 76% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, though its underwhelming box office numbers will likely prevent any sequels. Now an adult who's forgotten about his legendary past, Peter Pan, Robin Williams, is lured back to the magical world of Neverland when his arch-nemesis, Captain Hook, Dustin Hoffman, kidnaps his children. Not even Steven Spielberg, who directed the movie, could spare Hook from scathing reviews. The film holds a meager 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. Roger Ebert, one of Hollywood's most famous film critics, wrote, "The failure in Hook is its inability to reimagine the material to find something new, fresh, or urgent to do with the Peter Pan myth. But for many fans, Hook is perceived as a clever reimagining of the classic tale of Peter Pan. What happens when the boy who never grows up actually does grow up? That's probably why Hook holds an impressive audience score of 76%. Between its talented cast, Spielberg's creative vision, and John Williams' masterful score, Hook sparkles with fairy dust and has become a definitive childhood film for the millennial generation. Half-Baked is exactly like it sounds. It's a stoner comedy about three friends who sell stolen weed to raise bail money for their buddy, who's been arrested for killing a New York City police horse with junk food. Yep, that's what the movie is about. Unsurprisingly, critics aren't usually kind to stoner comedies. The critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, where Half-Baked holds a 28%, reads, "You'd have to be high to dig Half-Baked's half-baked production and scattershot sense of humor." And that was the point. Half-Baked is a stupid, stoner comedy that's only meant to make you laugh. And it seems like it did, judging by its 81% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. The Little Rascals was a modern adaptation of the TV series of the same name, also known as Our Gang, which ran from the 20s to the 40s. It brought back the franchise's most iconic characters like Alfalfa, Spanky, Darla, Buckwheat, and many others. Its goofy, childish humor and cast of unseasoned young actors earned The Little Rascals a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. Gene Siskel wrote, "A dismal kids' comedy in which all creativity stopped after casting lookalikes for the old Rascals was completed." The Little Rascals is very much for the kids, and the kids loved it. It has an audience score of 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Little Rascals was embraced by a new generation of fans, who will likely show this movie to their own kids one day, keeping these classic characters alive for yet another generation. Step Up was all the rage when it was first released in 2006. It was Dirty Dancing for the modern age, a teenage dance drama with a steamy romance. Its sexy young cast includes the then-unknown Channing Tatum and Jenna Dewan, who both rose to prominence, especially Tatum, after the movie's release. Audiences really stepped up for this movie, pun intended. Step Up has an 83% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and grossed $114 million against a budget of only $12 million. Its success unsurprisingly led to a franchise that has since pumped out 4 sequels. Critics, however, didn't vibe with Step Up the way that audiences did. This trite teen romance has too little plot and not enough dancing was their consensus, hitting the movie with a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. Grandma's Boy is another stoner comedy that critics took a dump on. It stars Alan Covert, a buddy of Adam Sandler who's appeared in many of his movies, and Doris Roberts from Everybody Loves Raymond. It also features a then-unknown Jonah Hill. In Grandma's Boy, a video game tester is forced to move in with his grandmother after being evicted from his home. Like with Waiting, critics found Grandma's Boy more gross than funny, a lazy and unrewarding comedy. All this negativity couldn't put out the fire on this joint. Audiences found the movie hysterical. Some of them even regard it as one of the best Happy Madison films. Adam Sandler's studio that's produced many of his comedies. Grandma's Boy has an impressive 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a whopping 75% difference from the critics' score, by far the biggest gap on our list. Comedy legend Adam Sandler is known for casting his buddies in his movies, so it didn't surprise anyone when he rounded up his best friends for a new comedy called Grown Ups, a group that includes some of the biggest names in comedy like Chris Rock, David Spade, Kevin James, and Sandler himself. Grown Ups follows 5 childhood friends and former teammates who reunite in adulthood after the death of their old basketball coach. The film was panned by critics for its flat direction and the scattershot lowbrow humor of a stunted script, earning a lowly 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yet despite this, Grown Ups was a box office hit and grossed $272 million. Audiences loved seeing these comedians in the same movie and turned out again for the film's sequel, Grown Ups 2, earning Sandler and his boys another box office smash.